Good evening. How is everyone? I am here in my friend's house in beautiful Los Angeles. Going to be a very stripped down stream tonight. I have none of my equipment with me except for a little laptop. I can't even, it's so stripped down, I can't even hear my own voice in these AirPods because they're not fancy enough. So I have some relative confidence that you guys are hearing this because of the meters on the screen, but usually I get that audible feedback, and I don't have it tonight. So feeling a little naked, but it's kind of I guess that's the point of this show, is to get kind of naked. I'm gonna keep my clothes on. Don't worry. I would never get naked, uh, in certain places. Um, Really excited to be doing this in a new way tonight. Very different way. I'm very curious how this will impact tonight. I hope that there are no technical difficulties. I've got a really robust internet connection at my home studio where I usually do these from. And we have like a fiber connection there, two gig fiber connection. And here, my friend does not have a fiber connection. So I hope there are no issues. But if there are, please tell me in the chat, and we'll try to resolve them. Please tell me if anything at all goes wrong, because I literally have nothing to go off here. Hope everyone's had a great week. We are opening the phone lines now, getting ready to dive right in. Nothing substantial to note other than this Tuesday. Keep in mind that it'll be kind of the same as this stream that I kind of warned you guys about last week. Keep an eye on the community channel here on my YouTube channel for updates on what to expect Tuesday. I am doing everything I can to make sure I don't miss it, but I'm traveling Wednesday back to my home, so Tuesday is kind of I don't want to miss any streams. That's my goal, is to not miss any of these streams. I want to stay on schedule because I think it's important not to disrupt the schedule. But keep an eye on the community page for updates on this stream on Tuesday. I am opening phone lines now. Get your phones ready. The new phone system does take some time to get through, so please try to anticipate your calls by, it doesn't ring straight to me when you call. You got to kind of jump through some hoops. And if it is your first time calling, please listen to the phone prompts so that you know what to expect and you don't get toasted. With that, we're taking our first caller. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi, give me just 1 second, please.
Oop, hang on the phone with me. Adjusting some things. Let's see here. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Bear with
Hello?
me. Oh, I see the problem. These AirPods give me some connection issues sometimes, guys. Bear with me. Can you hear me, caller?
Yeah, yes.
Great, I can hear you now. What you want to
Give
talk
me just
about?
1 second, please. I will get to that in just a second. I just gotta get some stuff situated.
Okay. We'll give the caller a second to get to a good place.
All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you. What you want to talk about?
Okay. Well, what's been on my mind recently is I suffer from bipolar disorder pretty badly, and I'm currently going through pretty one of the worst depressive episodes I've had in recent memory. And I think what's kind of triggering that right now is it's Pride Month, of course, and what I'm dealing with right now is it's like I feel like I know I've been like bisexual for a while, and I've been like kind of open about it, but I have so much trouble just embracing those, for lack of a better word, I guess, alternative sides of whatever, as in like, my attraction to men, my willingness to like dress like femininely or whatnot. Um, and I'm just kind of just trying to maybe just kind of get some answers on not looking for anything. I mean, I'm not really looking for anything in particular. It's more kind of just venting with, of course, an opportunity for any response or whatever. But it's I feel so just wildly uncomfortable and insecure about embracing those sides of myself, and it's like I know that they're there, but every time I'm on a dating app or something, or I went to Pride last summer. I've never like been out with a guy. I've never had any relations with a guy like physically or anything, but it's like I know that I deal with that. Like I know it's a part of me, but it's embracing that as well as, anything feminine. Like I can induce a panic attack if I see myself in makeup or anything. It's just I have so much trouble accepting those sides of myself. And it feels like, people say things on Pride Month, they'll post on social media like you're valid even if you're not out, and it's like I want to be out and open about it, but it's like I feel like I can't be out about it until I know how to accept it within myself.
So you're having some kind of an identity crisis, it sounds like.
Yeah, somewhat.
How old are you?
I'm 19.
Well, how do your parents know you feel this way? Makes me wonder
Uh,
if you're in a supported environment or what the deal is.
I'm out to my dad. My dad, my dad isn't like homophobic by any means. He just kind of doesn't really understand, you know, he didn't really grow up in that world. I live with my brother, and he's also openly bisexual and dating a man. And I've yet to talk to him. I'm probably going to, talk to him about that at some point or another. Um, but I just saw this opportunity. I've been watching your videos since I was like a little tiny child. Like I watched Jellyfish when I was like 9, even younger than that. And it's like I saw this opportunity, anonymous place, just kind of vent out these feelings, put them into words, because it's like I don't know if I have. It's like I have spaces to talk about it, but no person that I quite feel comfortable with, just kind of doing the word vomit part of it to kind of formulate, what I'm thinking. I do have like I have supportive parents. I came out to them, and they were like, my stepmom, she's great. My stepmom is very supportive of it. My sister is also like openly bisexual, whatever. It's like people know about it. People know that I'm like bisexual. People know I'm like queer or whatever. But they've never really seen me embrace those sides of me. And there was one stint last summer. No, gosh, not even last summer. Summer of 2020. That is so weird how time has gone by very fast. Summer of 2020, where I told people that I was non-binary, and I, dyed my hair. I did all that. I dyed my hair. I put on makeup. I put on women's clothing. I changed my name. I changed my pronouns, and it was like it felt more like it was fueled by just pure narcissism, not rather than being comfortable with myself. I saw an opportunity to make incredibly drastic changes to my personality, and it feels like in retrospect so much more out of like, hey, look at me, look how special I am, rather than like, this is me. And it's like now I'm trying to find that this is me part of that if I do decide to, you know, change anything about myself again. I don't know if I have any identity problems with like my actual like gender identity. When I get, really, really down in the dumps, sometimes I'll think maybe it's because I'm like secretly trans or something and I'm not actually acknowledging it within myself just because of how wildly uncomfortable I am embracing those sides of myself.
Right.
but you know,
So you think it's something within you that is keeping you from embracing what you
it's some
feel
kind
to
of
be
mental
true?
block or something like that. Yeah.
It doesn't sound like it's your environment. It doesn't sound like it's your family. It sounds like your family,
I,
you've got other bisexual family members and your family's been supportive of that, is what I'm hearing. Is that right?
yes.
Do you have any idea what it could be that's holding you back?
I not really like in a specific, not like a specific way to word it, but goodness gracious. What was the question you just asked? I totally just blanked on what you asked me.
Do you have any idea of what it could be that is holding you back?
It's some kind of just like internalized homophobia, some internalized transphobia, whatever that is.
Were you raised that way?
Um, um, sorry, can you repeat that?
Were you raised that way?
Um, Raised homophobic? No, not necessarily, but I was never really exposed to that world until I came to high school. Like I was, I went down the like whatever, like the Ben Shapiro pipeline in middle school. I was like, trans people are mentally ill, whatever, and just not from any like actual judgment, just purely from ignorance with that. Um, and then I was in theater, and when you're in theater, especially in like the musical scene, you're surrounded by you're surrounded by those people. So it's like I got that exposure that I think I needed, and I think it made me realize that that was maybe part of me that was like okay to accept. um However, I feel like just fully embracing that, because I see it as like not normal, because it's like I think I tend to, unfortunately, whether this is out of just ignorance or just internalized, I think I tend to judge other people on that myself, because I sometimes think like they're doing it for attention, they're doing it out of narcissism, and I think that just comes from how much I see that in myself.
Hmm.
Um,
Don't tell me where you are, but are you in a part of the world? Again, don't tell me specifically, but are you in a part of the world where that kind of stuff is frowned upon? Could that be it?
uh, no, I'm in one of the more like open states. Like I'm in a blue state in America,
Okay.
and it's like one of the most like you know open towns about that kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
or just towns, just areas, districts, counties, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. Terry Smith, 87, in the chat said uh, they feel so bad for men who are raised to, quote, toughen up. Um, and I think that uh, that is, I also think that's really unfortunate that a lot of people get that, especially, specifically men hear that a lot. I wonder if you heard things like that growing up that maybe could be contributing to that, or this feeling. Uh, have you heard things like that? Is this some kind of lie that you've been told uh, that you
That is
believe?
definitely something that I have experienced when growing up. Is the like the toughen up. Like I can't cry. I have immense
Hmm.
difficulty like being brought to tears over anything, just from it feels I've just like emotionally just like repressed as a child. My dad wouldn't let me see a therapist. I didn't see a therapist until I was 18, and he didn't let me see a therapist because he thought that he's kind of one of those like mental illness is all in your head, whatever kind of guys. Um,
That's why it's called mental illness. You
so
know.
yeah. He hasn't gone to therapy yet. My sister and I talk about that. We think he's got a lot of his own issues that he's going through as well. So it's like I don't really hold it against my dad for being that way, because he's he's fucked up, I'm fucked up, we're all messed up in that way. Um, However, just due to that raising thing, the way I was raised with that, it's like if I was ever like crying or anything, I was told like I can't cry. I struggled with anger issues a lot as a kid. And if I was ever going through that anger, like a bout of like being angry, even at just like a video game or like homework or something, I wasn't given like tools like here's how you can work through your anger, or like someone asking me like where's the anger coming from, is just stop being angry. So it's whenever I get those feelings that I feel like I like think of myself as like adverse, you know, like
Hmm.
identity, homophobia, whatever, it's not like I don't know how to deal with it, because when I get those like emotions that I consider to be like issues within myself, I'm just like stopping, it's just like stop that, just like repressing, holding those back. So I think it's like I put those barriers up to not embrace those, for lack of a better word, problematic sides of my mental health.
Right. Well, you are, you said you're 19, you're young.
Yeah.
I think these are, some of this could be developmental. I wonder, where you
The
where you fall in the birth order. You said you have some other bisexual family members. I'm wondering if these are older siblings or
youngest.
younger. You're the youngest. Okay, so have you opened up to your
Yeah.
bisexual siblings about this, and what do they have to say?
Yes. I haven't gone. The thing about this is the first time I'm saying a lot of this out loud.
I see.
Um, I haven't really, like I said earlier in the call. I said I wanted to. I haven't talked very openly to my brother or sister about this, just because I haven't really figured out how to formulate the words, and that's kind of why I wanted to just have this anonymous opportunity, just speak, just talk, just get the words flowing, kind of figure out what it is. And I think I've
Right.
already made some
Good.
progress on that.
So
So,
what becomes clear to you when you're processing in this way? What what thoughts are you having as you're thinking out loud with us here? How do you think this
I'm
it
thinking
helps you to think out loud?
I think what I've gotten out of this, what just having this opportunity to just speak and kind of word vomit has helped me realize, this is exactly what I just said with the anger thing. It's like when I get those, again, quote, problematic, whatever problems, I just repress them and I just stop them, and I don't allow myself to feel them because they make me uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Even things like being angry, I'm uncomfortable with being angry.
Hmm.
So it's like things like being angry, feeling like I have issues with my sexuality or my gender identity. It's just, rather than allow myself to feel them because of how uncomfortable they make me feel, I just shove them down into a bottle and just repress them and think I'll deal with that later. But since it's, you know, I thought, I'm thinking that because it's Pride Month, there's these open communities where you're given those opportunities to explore. And it's like, even if I don't, if I actually am trans or whatever, even if I don't come out until I'm as trans until I'm like 28 or something, I still want to have this opportunity to feel these feelings that I'm having when I'm 19 and not just keep shoving them down.
Right. Ryan Hunt from the chat just said feeling is living. I think you made, I find that relevant. I think you might be
I think,
feeling your feelings aren't worth feeling or something like that, and again, you're in some formative years. You're 19. I would say go easy on yourself. I'm happy that this anonymous forum could create a space for you to kind of think out loud and collect your thoughts in a way that you couldn't have otherwise. And again, I would just say just go easy on yourself. You're really young, and you're uh, there hasn't been a better time to be honest about these kinds of things than today. It's a
hmm
it's a safe time for people to um, be who they are. So I would say,
hmm
just take your time and know that your 20s, I'll give you a spoiler alert a little bit. Like your 20s are are gonna be full of these kinds of discoveries about yourself. It's not just gonna be your sexuality. Of course, like our sexuality is one of the first things that kind of develops in us in our teen years. But in your 20s, you're gonna be discovering all kinds of things about yourself apart from
Mhm.
sexuality, and maybe some sexual stuff too. But uh, just go easy on yourself through all of it, because you're on the verge of a lot of self discovery that no one
Mhm.
can really prepare you for. Your 20s are wild
Mhm.
and very rewarding, and so just go easy on yourself, love yourself. Well, I think it's good. You sound like a reflective person, a self-reflective person. So I think that's
Mhm.
really healthy, and you're listening to the voice in your head, and you're trying to sort it out, and you're using this anonymous space we've got, which is for people like you to call in and vent or collect their thoughts or get feedback, and I think that's a really good sign at your age. So I would say just trust that you are what you are, and that's whatever that is, that's okay.
Mhm.
As long as you love
I
people, and you're a good you're good to other
I want
people, it doesn't really matter what you
to.
are.
Mhm. I think I want to say one more thing before I go, and that's this may sound a little ridiculous. I promise I'm not trying to like troll or anything. I just recently watched through the Kung Fu Panda trilogy. If you've seen those movies, that's all about like, you know, identity and accepting those things within yourself. It's like you're not gonna be able to change yourself. You kind of just got to accept what you are, and I think that has been something that's helped me a lot recently. I'm the type of person, I'll read super deep into the themes of anything I watch, especially like those old kids movies I grew up with. So it's like I got that out of that, and I think just having this conversation here has I feel like it's just helped me. If like I didn't expect this to like fix anything. I don't believe you can ever truly like fix yourself,
Hmm.
but I think
Hmm.
this has helped. I basically, since I'm having trouble formulating more words, this is a good opportunity to talk. I appreciate it. I appreciate all you do. Huge fan of your work. I think you're great. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to leave you with a thought from Easy Cheesy, one of our mods, a great suggestion. I'm not sure if it's relevant because we haven't been talking very long, but might send you on a good path. And if not, it's just some good history philosophy thought for you from Easy Cheesy. He says to you, I don't know how familiar or interested the caller is with Jungian psychology, but it sounds like they may benefit from reading about shadow work. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term shadow work, but I found that relevant here. You might look into that.
I do know I do know about like the shadow self in Jungian
Mhm.
psychology,
Okay,
but never heard of shadow work. But yeah,
right. Well, thanks again for calling in tonight and for using this place in this way. It's great to see. Um, I mean, every night we have different people calling in with different things, and I'm grateful you called in and we could talk about this. Thanks for trusting us all here, even though it's
of course,
anonymous. You're very very
of
brave,
course.
and I think that's awesome. Take care and call back again
Thank you.
anytime.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Good night. All right, taking the next caller. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi, Julian Smith. It's a pleasure to meet you. Um, so my situation has kind of been a long-lasting situation. So I'm a 22 year old college student, and my situation was when I got out of college, I had my purpose on what I wanted to do. I was a very passionate broadcaster throughout high school. I uh, I was a play-by-play commentator, and I really felt like I found my purpose. But probably into my sophomore year of college, I just completely lost my passion for broadcasting. And ever since I've lost my passion for broadcasting, I've kind of been misdirected in my life. So in the past 3 years, I probably moved to 4 different places and 4 different colleges. And as I continue to go on to college, I keep trying to try out new things on ways and paths that I could go about my life. But at the same time, I guess I'm kind of struggling, trying to find that new passion as I continue to just keep enrolling in colleges and majors, and I guess I've just been struggling.
Hmm. So would you say it's
But
a general sense of losing passion, or would you say that maybe your interests are changing? Which one do you think it is?
well, I think it's kind of just my entire time that I was going through broadcasting, one of the things I often heard was you can't really make a career out of journalism. So what I did in high school was I used to do play by play. I used to broadcast, high school games, tournament games, college games. I've got to I had a show that I used to do, and I used to, interview some celebrities or some other people on my show, and I feel like I had a lot of passion in broadcasting, but I guess one of the things that just I guess I don't know. Ever since COVID and stuff, I've really dealt with some mental health things. So I'm kind of bipolar, and sometimes it's really hard to do broadcasting when I'm bipolar because it really depends on what mood I'm in. Like sometimes I'm very like motivated and I really, want to pursue this passion. But at the same time, I really don't know if I could make it. And oftentimes, I feel like I'm one of those people that is just kind of settling for one of those, everyday jobs, those 9 to 5 jobs that just get you by. And I feel like
Hmm.
perhaps it's fear, and I when I first started in broadcasting, I was very confident. I was very confident who I was and the department I was in. I was creating some great content. I was starting to become well known. People
Hmm.
around my area kind of knew me as the broadcaster, and I felt at one point that was what I wanted to go into. But for some
Hmm.
reason, I that passion just isn't there as much. Sometimes it comes in spurts. Like sometimes, I feel like getting my show back up and running, and but at other times, I don't necessarily know what my purpose is,
Hmm.
um, and my passion. And sometimes I just, I feel like, well, maybe I should just get a random degree, or perhaps, after I graduate, I can discover and find a job that I'm into. But ever
Hmm.
since I've lost my passion for broadcasting, I really haven't had a direction, and I'm one of those people that need to have a plan. And I don't know. It's one of those times that I wonder, do I wait to go to college, or do I just try new things to find my passion? I guess I don't necessarily know. Like, do you have any personal experience? Because I mean, even though we're kind of in the different arts, primarily you and I were in the entertainment business. And did you ever feel like what you were doing, wouldn't work out, or how
Oh
did you
yeah.
handle those situations?
Oh yeah. I think I mean, it wouldn't just be me. I think that's a very normal, relatable thing for anyone, successful or unsuccessful, that works in any industry. So I'm still a little. I still have some questions about whether you think you're dealing with an actual loss of passion. Like, in other words, are you passionate about anything in life? Have you lost interest in everything in life? Are you in a state of feeling numb towards everything? Or is it just that broadcasting, you mentioned a couple times in that last thing you shared that some people said something about, like, it's hard to, you can't make a sustainable career out of journalism, which just simply isn't true. Journalism has a lot of challenges right now, but, like, I mean, there's so many great journalists that have been career journalists. So I wouldn't believe anybody's telling you that. In fact, now so more than ever, we need great journalists that care about journalism, because uh, journalism is a dying art, and it's turning into, and journalists are becoming clickbait engineers, and we need real
Right.
journalists now more than ever. And as far as the bipolar thing goes, there's so many examples of prolific bipolar performers and writers. Winston Churchill was bipolar. Jimi Hendrix was bipolar. Carrie Fisher is bipolar. Um, you know,
Right.
uh, I'm pretty sure Robert Downey Jr. is. I could be wrong about that, but the point is, like, you get the point. Like, there's so many successful people that are able to curb their mental disorders and channel their energy into something productive despite what they're going through. So I wouldn't, I would be really, I would caution you against letting your bipolar experience defeat you or tell you that you can't do something productive or meaningful, because that's just not true. And as
Right.
far as the journalism thing goes, that's, I would say, what you've been told is also not true. And now, so more than ever, we need great journalists. So, in short, I would ask you again, like, is there anything in life that that gets you excited? Is there anything in life that fills you up and gives you a sense of passion and meaning? Or is it just this general sense of feeling numb towards everything? Or is it just broadcasting? Because if
Yeah.
it's just broadcasting, maybe you are in the wrong business. Maybe you need to do something that's going to fill you up a little more.
Yeah. So I guess the thing with me is when I was in high school, I kind of identified with being a broadcaster. So I wasn't very good in sports, but I absolutely loved sports. And someone recommended that I go onto the radio and start, doing it. Well, after a few years, I'm like, man, I'm really confident. I'm really good at this. And I'm also on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum. So I felt like whenever I was on the radio, all my worry, my confidence issues just vanished. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
I really was able to just express who I was. And then like when I got to college, I guess one of the things when I got taken out of my small community, I started to become a little bit depressed because before that I never really dealt with any mental health issues. And then I guess after the fact, when I went on to college and stuff, I really started like just getting depressed, and it really got in the way of um having a passion for anything. I was suicidal for a little bit. I was moving around. I guess I wasn't finding my place where I was. I wasn't getting that same joy that I used to. But at the same token, I really don't. I feel like that might be just more of an issue that also one of my greatest supporters that was near and dear to my heart passed away this year, and so that kind of set me back mentally and trying to find where what I want to do, what I want to accomplish. It's just one of those things that's just been kind of a pitfall of different things. And during COVID and stuff, obviously college has been online, so I haven't been in the field for a while. I haven't really been on in the field just doing my work. It's been classes have been online. That normal interaction has just like just those that time period of COVID just really I feel like set me back like mentally because that confidence that I had in myself in broadcasting has been hard. It's not quite there as it used to be, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like when all like the world just completely just shut down and everything that
Yeah.
and love was just starting to and I don't know. I think that fear just kind of took over me, and for a while I'm like, man, I don't really have a passion for anything right now. Do I have a
Mm.
passion for broadcasting right now, or is it perhaps maybe I just don't have a passion for anything and it's a mental health thing, and
Yeah.
I'm one of those and like I love sports broadcasting and stuff, but I think it's just that because I had family around me saying, oh, broadcasting, that isn't, during these times, things are getting more and more expensive. How are you going to be able to provide for yourself? Stuff like that's just been,
Well,
when you're
yeah.
starting to get,
Sorry,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
sorry.
No, no, go ahead. I want to hear your thought first.
Um, when you constantly have that environment around you, telling kind of naysayers, you begin to like wonder, am I able to like make a career out of this, or perhaps is
Hmm.
it one of those dreams that you just do for a hobby? I just don't know. It's it's just been kind of a weird path these past few years, and just hopping from school to school, and then people are, because I come from a small town. I come from a town of probably 200 people. You got to understand, like, people talk, people judge
Right.
people on like how people's lives are coming along, because from our town, it's agriculture, mechanics, stuff stuff along those lines, those people that are creative with the arts and stuff. People start to judge you if you don't have a career straight narrow path. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, your parents telling you that things are getting more and more expensive and journalism won't pay your bills. I think what they might be trying to say is a valid point, but I think they maybe chose the wrong words because I mean, there's tons of money in journalism. Journalism is a very important uh, contribution to the world, no matter where you live, whether you live in a small town or whether you're from a small town or a big town, it doesn't matter. Yeah, there's I think what they might have been trying to say is that it's risky business, and it is risky because not everyone, journalism and generally just media is a really uh, difficult industry to penetrate. So, I think
Right.
that might have been what they were trying to tell you, and that's good advice. But uh, there are I'm not this isn't a career advice show. I can't please don't take what I'm telling you here and take career advice off of it because I don't know you. I don't know
Yeah.
your work. I don't know um, I don't know anything about you. So I can't tell you what you should do. But I will say
Right.
that
Right. Yeah.
working in the arts or in media or even journalism, yeah, is it the arts? That's a good question. I would say it's not. It is certainly an art, but is it the arts?
Right.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
It's
That's
very because journalism is
yeah.
kind of scientific. It's based on facts, and
Right.
you gotta report correctly. It can't be up for interpretation. Whereas like entertainment is
Right.
all art is up for interpretation. Journalism is not. Journalism is the opposite.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So
yeah,
yeah,
but
and maybe I should specify on my like exactly what I do. So I do enjoy journalists and I do enjoy television and news broadcasting. That's purely, facts. You're spreading facts. And I guess the art aspect that I am referring to is the stuff I do on the side, such as interviews, like with people, like, you know what I mean? Fun interviews, not necessarily those interviews to where you're trying to grill someone or, you're trying to inform the public. It's more of a kind of a side thing, kind of like one of those projects that you do on the side for your show and whatnot. And
mhm,
also when it comes to sports, you're conveying, obviously you're telling what's going on in a sports world sense. Like you're the play-by-play commentator and I did the radio, and so the art side of it is you're kind of their eyes and ears on how you
right.
describe the situation of the game. You know what I mean? So in that aspect, I that's what I would call the arts. But on the other sense, it's really hard to just be a play-by-play commentator and try to make a career out of it. More people tend to lean towards, newspapers, or they work for news stations and whatnot, and that's more of a trickier thing. And I think that's one of the things I didn't want to do in broadcasting is I don't necessarily like a person in the head department, telling me how to do my interviews or whatnot, because I feel like it limits creativity. But I mean, at the same sense, news, they have to be held to certain standards. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I feel like I feel like that also might play a role in why I'm like, well, do I want to go into news broadcasting or do I just kind of want to continue to do my creative show on the side, because oftentimes, you got to be careful on what area you want to go into.
Certainly, yeah. I would say, you've mentioned the pandemic and how that impacted your mental health, and it seems like the pandemic really disrupted a lot for you. Of course, it disrupted a lot for all of us. So that's completely understandable and relatable. It's clear to me now that this is not. It's clear to me that this is about uh, what's happening in the world. There's a lot of uncertainty in the world right now, and a lot of people are still freaked out and panicked from seeing how fragile our societies are from COVID. So I would say that to that extent and to that point, I would say a similar thing I said to the last caller. Go easy on yourself. It's going to take time for uh, the world to. Uh, I'm trying to find a better term than get back to normal, because like, what is normal?
Yeah.
But like, like the world
Right.
is still reeling from what's happened, and it's not quite the same as it was. So, you know, I would say take this time where the world is uh, reordering itself, and really do uh, some deep self-reflection on what it is that you want your life to be known for. We all get one life to make some impact, some meaningful impact, and it's different for all of us. We all will be known for different things, but what is it that you want to be known for? And take that time to figure out what you want to be, what you want people to eulogize you for at your funeral, if that helps. Some people might find that to be a morbid thought. I really love the
No.
Bhutanese. In Bhutan, the Bhutanese people have a tradition where every day they meditate on their own death for 5 minutes at least every day. And it's in Bhutan. It's not just I'm not just picking a random place for no reason. Bhutan is actually known for having the happiest uh, civilians of any third world country. There was these studies done on the happiest countries that had the least, you know, government services and amenities and things like this, and like what constitutes like the happiest society on earth with the least amount of amenities. And the Bhutanese people won that contest by a landslide. And what the research showed is that the Bhutanese people have this tradition where they meditate on their own death every day for 5 minutes, and that's kind of what I'm getting at here. Is like, what is it like you will be gone one day,
Yeah.
and what is it you want to be remembered for? And
Right.
so that might be a helpful practice for you. You're young, and you're young enough that you got your whole life in front of you. Your life could go any way
Right.
you want still. The people who tell you that you can't make a living in any industry are just wrong, because they're called industries, and anything
Right.
that's called an industry is making money, and that's why we call it an industry. But
Right.
different industries have different um, thresholds for different barriers to entry. So you do have to be
Right.
careful. You have to be really brutally honest about your own skill set. I don't know you, so I can't, again, I can't give you career advice, but you have to be really brutally
Right.
honest with yourself on what you're good at, and you can't indulge yourself at what you're good at, and
Right.
you gotta ruthlessly um, you got to be ruthlessly honest, and also ruthlessly honest about what it is you really want to be known for. Because you can get tempted by you know you can get distracted. It's really easy to get distracted and chase the new shiny thing and be like, well, this week I feel like doing this. But discipline
Yeah.
can discipline goes a long way. And I'm not saying you're undisciplined, but discipline
Right.
in
Right.
the sense that getting back to your bipolar disorder and your autism, there are so many influential people that suffer from bipolar disorder. And on top of that, uh, so many people who are autistic that are just as prolific. So none of these things
Right.
have to be, you got your whole life in front of you. Uh, you're beaming with human potential. So, go easy on yourself. Realize that the world is still uh, healing from what's happened the last few years, and
Right.
I would say just maybe make it. You could ask some friends maybe what they think you're good at. You maybe bounce this off some friends that
Right.
know you personally, and say, hey, I wonder what your best friends would think of this question. About
Yeah.
broadcasting in sports versus journalism, and ask them to be brutally honest. And you might get some helpful
Yeah.
answers. You might get a friend that's like, you know what, like I know you like the sports broadcasting thing, but I really think you're a better journalist. I really think you're a better like news journalist. Or you might get somebody that's like, you know what,
Right.
your creative stuff really speaks to me more so than any of the reporting broadcasting stuff. So
Right.
in a sense, I feel like we can only be so helpful here with you because we don't know you, and I don't know what your skill sets are,
Yeah.
and this
Right.
isn't a career advice show. But I
Yeah.
think
Absolutely. I
I
understand.
don't know if
Yeah.
that's helpful.
No, it definitely is. And it's one of those things. I've had those conversations with people in my community, my closest people that they've that I've come in contact with, and one of the things that they've they've shared with me is that, my communication skills tend to be a little bit more than average of a normal person. And in sports broadcasting, that was one of my talents that I've been told, at least within my community. And, I think it's one of those skill sets that I have. I just am afraid to utilize. And I feel like, maybe I've taken a confidence hit a little bit in the career field, especially being out of it for a few years. And perhaps, mental health is by no means an excuse or an scapegoat, to leave the field. But oftentimes, I feel like the biggest thing that I've worried is if I can make a living in it, and provide for myself. And in other times, I feel like when I'm driven and I have a consistent lifestyle, I tend to be more driven, and I tend to accomplish more instead of having an inconsistent life that I've had in the past few years. So.
Yeah, again, like your confidence may have been shaken by the pandemic and where you are in life. You haven't had much time yet to establish a professional sense of self yet. You're still in your early 20s. So, I think, I don't know if it helps you to hear this, but I think for a lot of people, I think for pretty much everybody's confidence was rattled by the pandemic in some way, shape, or form. But what I'm hearing from you is that it rattled your personal confidence, like your personal sense of self. Like for me, it was different. For me, the pandemic didn't rattle my sense of self, but I'm a lot older. I'm at least,
Yeah.
I guess I'm 13 years older than you or something like that. Point is
Right.
that for me, it was jarring in the sense, it jarred my confidence in the world, but the common denominator is that like a lot of people's confidence was rocked, and what is confidence? Confidence is what we base societies on.
Yeah.
That's why on our money in America it says trust. That's why we use terms like trust for money and trustees and whatnot. Confidence was naturally rattled by the pandemic, but with your as you're still uh, developing your career, your professional sense of self, it makes perfect sense that you might feel a little blind. So as to where to go next, and I think that's probably just going to take time. And again, I think it's good you're asking these questions. I would do some deep self work in determining what it is
Right.
you want to what it is you want to be known for, and then don't give up on that.
Yeah.
And it might be some kind of equation of like what I want to be known for and what my actual skills are, because like I could want to be known for being a professional golfer, but I've played golf and I know I have no propensity for golf whatsoever. So for me to go try to be Tiger Woods would be a huge waste of my
Yeah.
own time and energy. So that's why I'm trying to focus on this equation of like, what are you actually good at? And I don't know what you're actually good at, and what do you want to be known for? And then take that common denominator and just never give up on it. Just keep chasing it. That's what I would say.
Okay. Well, I greatly appreciate it, and I appreciate what you do for everyone, and it's a really great site that you've created, and so thank you. I appreciate your advice, and I appreciate you listening to me. So.
Well, again, I don't feel like I gave you any prescriptive advice, and I try not to on this show unless people like
Yeah.
unless I sense it's not going to mess up someone's life. But I'm glad you felt it was helpful, and wish you the best.
It definitely was helpful.
And feel free to call again anytime. And maybe join our Discord server. It might be a good place for you to hash out some of these thoughts. There's a lot of people your age in there asking similar questions. You might go into the general chat thread or channel and say, please don't reveal your identity. Of course, we try to encourage callers not to go into the Discord and reveal their identity from like the call here. But it might be helpful to go in there and be like, hey, I'm trying to figure out what to do with my life. Is anybody here interested in like these topics or these career paths? And maybe you might meet some people in there that are up against the same exact dilemma, and that might be helpful as well.
Right. Well, I greatly appreciate it. It's definitely given me some questions to ask. So anyways, alrighty, thank you.
Thanks for calling. Take care.
Have a good one.
All right. Beautiful. Opening up these phone lines again. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hello, sir. How do you do?
I am well. What would you like to talk about?
I would like to ask how you are personally doing.
Toast. That is toast count 1. My friend, you got toasted because this isn't about me. I'm doing well, but I'm not going to take a call on how I'm doing because I'm really trying to. I want to make this a place where people are calling in every night, everyone has their problems, but people are calling in every night with really serious stuff. So please, if you're calling in, please respect the other callers. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hi.
Hi, what do you want to talk about?
I wanted to talk a little bit about some family stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, so I am non-binary, and I have 3 siblings, and my parents, and they all know. But one thing that I've run into a lot of trouble with recently is my nieces and nephews. The oldest one is like 6 years old, I think. Might be turning 7. But they obviously have a lot of questions about who I am, because they notice that something's different with me. But my sister, they're her kids. She's very religious, very conservative, and thinks that what I'm doing is wrong, and so doesn't really want her kids to know about that. But it's really hurtful, and
right.
So I guess I'm coming on here to kind of, I don't know, talk out loud about what to do with this, because it's I love my family so much, and they've been supportive in some aspects, less supportive in others. But I want to have a relationship with them. But being around those kids, especially, they'll point at me and say things like, they, for whatever reason, they know that I have a penis, as if that's any of their business. But it's
right.
To me, if those kids are old enough to know what my genitals are, they should be old enough to know how to use pronouns, or at least appropriately address me. It doesn't seem that complicated to me. And I've had other interactions with children the same age, 7 years old, where they know that I'm not a boy or a girl. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. And they go, oh, okay, But these nieces and nephews of mine, they just, and I guess it's tricky. I have no right to parent these kids. They're not my kids. But
right.
I want to have a relationship, and I don't want to be in pain every time I'm around them, and they treat me, in a certain way. And then I talk to my sister about it, and she just blows it off like it's inappropriate. Am I making sense?
I'm tracking with you 100%. I'm really sorry to hear that. I've got some personal experience with this. I'm not that I identify as non-binary, but I have some family who does, and it's really tragic when you see certain family members who can't understand what you just laid out there, and some people just won't, and some people won't for right now, and then things may change for some of these people. Of course, it doesn't sound like I need to. It sounds like you already understand that you said you can't parent these kids because they're not your kids. You hit the nail on the head. In some ways, you're kind of powerless here because they are hearing behind your back very different things than you would like them to hear. It might be. Have you tried? I know you've tried talking to your sister about it, but I wonder how those conversations go. I wonder how you try to approach them. If she's super closed off towards it, maybe no good can come from it. Maybe in time, some of your nieces and nephews get older and form their own thoughts. But it sounds like they're still under the influence of their mom and their dad. I think you mentioned just the parents in general, but it sounds like it's your sister that's your connection here. Is that right?
Yeah, and so I guess some more context that might be helpful is that my brother-in-law, he is, I would say, even more conservative than my sister. I don't have as good of a relationship with him. I like talk to him, we're friendly,
Okay.
but I wouldn't say I have any level of trust with him or any really rapport with him. Um, I've had conversations with my sister where she's like, "Oh, I want to be a better ally. I want to be more supportive of you," and we've had certain conversations. But one thing that regularly comes up is she goes, "I don't know how to do this with my kids," and I just I get uncomfy talking about that. I feel like it's not my place to tell her how to teach her kids about me. But at this point, I'm kind of like, maybe I should step in and say, "Hey, can we talk about how you talk to your kids about me?"
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that should be a conversation that I have with her and her husband, because if the two of them are talking about me behind my back to their kids and saying, I'm mentally ill, or who knows what stories they tell their kids. But I don't know. I don't look like a man. Like, I don't. I definitely have a more masculine voice because of testosterone and puberty, and things like that. But most people see me and they either think I'm a woman or they are confused. They don't know what gender I am. And most kids even have to ask me. They go, "Are you a boy or a girl?" But these kids, they don't. They know, they for some reason they have assigned me as male, and I know it's because that's what my sister and her husband are talking about and treating me when I'm not around. Right.
Right. You know, um, while it would be really funny to uh, retort with some kind of like reciprocal pronouns with them, like calling your sister the opposite pronouns she wants to be called, like that. That would be like a really funny. I wish that were appropriate because that would be like the best way to. That would be the funniest revenge. But I bring that up not because I think that would be helpful. That would be the opposite of helpful. But I bring it up to say that unfortunately, like the opposite of that is usually uh, the only respectful option. It's what is so difficult about uh, identity today, and what we're learning about the capacity for identity and the complexity of identity. And science is always, and the science on these things are always changing, and the science on these things are really unclear. We still need lots of answers about these kinds of things, of course. So, some of these people who have just this rigid approach to things like um, sexual identity don't. Uh, some of these people are under a lot of fear from religion. A lot of these people are under religious fear of, and it sounds like you already know that, but I'm just, I'm kind of thinking out loud here myself. Um, a lot of these people feel fear that if they give in and address you the way you want to be addressed, that then they would be committing some kind of sin, and then they would be tied up in that sin. And this is just how some people see these kinds of things. So, again, like while it would be really fun to like mess with them and make it a game of some kind where like if they're going to call you by the wrong pronouns, you're going to call them by the wrong pronouns. That's like what I wish we could do because it'd be so fun. But I think that unfortunately, because of where we are in our understanding of these things and the differences people have in their perception of these things, people like you really carry a lot of weight because we don't have answers to a lot of these things right now, and this is the whole challenge. Of course, it's better today than it was 50 years ago. It's a lot better than it was 50 years ago, but of course, like you're dealing with family members, like that's pretty up close and personal. So, I I wonder, do you have what it would take to, do you have it within you to um, just sit quietly and uh, and uh, not get engaged with it when they call you by pronouns that you don't identify with? Do you have it within you to kind of just, you know, uh, maybe use fewer words with these kinds of people? Maybe be very reserved with your words and let them feel it. No, don't. I'm not saying to be mean or nasty or disrespectful, but very respectfully so. Like, let them. You know, there's this great rule of psychology that I've read about. Like, they call it the 3-second rule, and it's used in confrontational settings where if someone confronts you, what's your knee-jerk reaction? Your knee-jerk reaction is to retort or to confront or correct the person. But there's this rule called the 3-second rule. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's pretty popular, but the rule is it's pretty basic, and you probably already get where it's going. But you just take 3 seconds, and you just kind of sit there, and you just take three, and you don't say anything, and it's awkward. You let them feel it. It's like a long punctuated pause, and you let the other party feel it, and you give that party a second to be like, "Whoa, I just said something like pretty heavy," and then you respond with as few words as possible, not disrespectfully, but just a very calculated few words, uh, and then try to close the conversation. Have you ever tried something like that, or have you ever heard of that rule?
Yeah, I have. Actually, so I mean, that's kind of what I used to have a really rough time with my mom, when I came out, and I actually cut her off. Well, I mean, I would
Mm,
practice that with her, and she kind of started to notice that I was just being way more reserved with her. Um, Eventually got to the point where it was so bad that I just cut her off, and I didn't talk to her for about a year and a half. Um,
right.
and she eventually came to me and like she did the work to be like, okay, I see what I've done here.
Okay.
Um, and so that took a lot of, that was really hard to do. Um, and I would like hate to do that again with another family member, but it almost feels like that's, you know, giving them less of me, uh, as like a, I don't know, it's not a punishment that I'm giving them directly. It's the punishment that they're getting because I'm protecting myself, I guess, right?
Hmm. Have you tried that with your sister? Some kind of break or change in the relational dynamic to let her uh, feel that like, to feel the weight of what her actions will cost her? Have you tried that with your sister? It sounds like it worked with your mom.
Did I haven't tried that with my sister, no.
It might be harder with your sister than with your mom.
Yeah, my mom has hurt me a lot, whereas my sister has been pretty good,
Hmm.
but now it's getting to this point where she's letting her kids kind of just say whatever they want about me, and that's hurtful.
Hmm. How old are your nieces and nephews that are doing this to you?
So the oldest one's 6, turning 7, um, and then there's one that's 5 and one that's 3. The 3-year-old has really no clue what's going on, but is actually the one that came up to me and said that I have a penis. So it's just like if you're telling your 3-year-old about genitals, like why can't you tell them to be like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lack of respect that they could be teaching their kids. They don't have to go into
Well,
detail about gender
yeah,
theory or what trans people are. Like that's not really my business, but they could teach them to be more respectful.
right. Well, it feels like lack of respect. I would imagine, though, for your sister, it's a very fear-forward response. In other words, your sister is afraid of using those pronouns. For your sister, it's a fear thing. If she's religious, and that's the reason that she's uh, not able to show you that respect, then, and I'm trying to be very careful because I know for you that feels like a it's got to feel like of course it feels like disrespectful, and it is disrespectful it's not even specific to sexual identity. Of course, like if I tell you, hey, I don't want you to hit me, and then someone hits you, that's of course very disrespectful. But someone might, I don't know what, of course no religious dogma is going to tell people to hit people. That's kind of the point of religion, is to keep people from hitting each other and stuff like that. But the point is that, like, for your sister, it sounds like she's really afraid. It sounds like she's really afraid for you. And I wonder, I wonder if maybe I'm not alone. The chat is also echoing this. I haven't picked out any one of these comments specifically because there's a bunch of them, but a bunch of people are talking about boundaries, that maybe some boundaries are in order. It's really interesting to hear that you tried that with your mom, but not your sisters. I think we're all kind of curious what some kind of new boundary would look like with your sister. And that might be really hard to think about, but I wonder what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that she's afraid. I mean, and I understand where that fear is coming from. I think there's probably aspects to it. I mean, she's seen how hard it's been for me to be myself and accept myself. It's been a really tough and grueling journey to get where I am, and honestly, I'm really happy. Like, I'm in a really good place these days. I have great friends and a wonderful partner, and good things going for me. But so but she's definitely got that fear, and I honestly think that one part of it is that she, and also especially her husband, might be afraid that, if they talk to their kids about this, that they're setting up their kids to be open to exploring these things. And so I can understand where that fear might be coming from, especially having been raised in that same religious background.
Mm-hmm.
Her.
I do think I'm giving an opinion here. I try to not get into opinions unless I think it's really going to help someone think about something in a new way. So it's the only reason I'm sharing an opinion here. But my opinion is that a lot of these kids that are growing up today in ultra-conservative environments. When I say conservative, I'm not talking about politically. I'm talking about just old-fashioned environments that are regressive and not open to things like preferred pronouns and whatnot. My opinion is that a lot of these kids are going to inherit a very different world than people your sister's age have inherited. And these nieces and nephews of yours, my bet, and again, I'm just stating an opinion, but my bet is, and I'm not saying this about your nieces. I don't know your nieces and nephews, of course. I'm saying this about this general generation that's growing up with all these, they're growing up in this cultural divide, and how old are you? You sound, we haven't asked that question yet. That would be helpful at this point in the conversation.
I'm 29.
Okay. So when you and I were kids, the cultural divide was being homosexual, and now look how normal that is, and look how accepted that is. I don't know how your family feels about someone being homosexual, but I can't figure it out. Why is it that most churches and religions, maybe not most religions, but most, at least, churches in America, most faiths in America, at least in the free world, have accepted the idea of homosexuality and will welcome homosexual members to their community, but this whole trans thing is off limits. Isn't that so bizarre? It makes
It is.
That's the opinion I'm sharing, is that I think we're in this. I think the new hot topic is being trans. And my bet is that these nieces and nephews you have, they're so young. They're when they grow up, my bet is that they'll have a lot of remorse for how they treated you, and you will be the one to tell them at that point. You'll be in the position, if you can navigate this relationship carefully with them if you can be very careful with it, you'll be in the perfect position when they're of legal age, or whenever they unlock this part of their brain and start thinking for themselves. If you can set yourself up to be in the perfect position to be ready for them to come to you and say, look, when we were young, we did not understand what we were saying. We were so disrespectful towards you. We didn't know what we were doing. We were under the influence of our parents, and like, we're really sorry. Like how good would that feel if you could walk this really careful line of, again, like I'm referencing things like 3-second rule, and just generally like choosing your words carefully and trying to avoid confrontation. If your sister's not open to discussions around it, or she doesn't take them seriously, then maybe just be really think twice maybe before getting into conversations like that if it's not productive. And keep that end goal in mind of like, okay, my nieces and nephews are 25 years old and I'll be like 45 or however old that makes you. And they'll be coming to me saying like, look, we are really sorry. And then you'll be the cool family member that's just like, it's all good. I love you. And how awesome would that be?
Yeah, that's a really nice thought. Thank you. I actually really, that's very helpful. And thank you to everyone in the chat too. There's some great things here that people are saying. So
for sure, I had a hard time.
This has been really helpful. I appreciate the time to chat.
I'm glad. I had a hard time, admittedly, picking anything out of the chat because a bunch of people were saying similar things, and also, I was just kind of admittedly carried away by the conversation a little bit, and kind of, this is an issue that's really important to me. So thanks for calling, and again, like, we're going to be learning a lot about these kinds of issues and the science behind them in the coming years. Like, we don't have the full picture scientifically of what these things fully mean yet, and I think like it's only going to become easier, and I hope that gives you hope, and wishing you luck on navigating your family challenges in a way that you can be happy about looking back.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Take care. Call again anytime.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay. Hi, thanks for calling.
Hello?
Hi, thanks for calling.
Is that Julian?
That's right. What you want to talk about?
Oh, wow. Hi, I didn't know I'd get through. Wow, that's amazing. Hi, Julian. My name is Jay. We'll just say Jay for short.
Toast. My friend, you said your name. Oof. Guys, this is an anonymous stream. We do that to protect you, so that in case you share anything in the future that you don't want to be up anymore, you're protected, and others can still value from the conversation. My friend, you were toast. Please call back again and omit your name. Hi, thanks for calling.
Oh, sorry. I tried a couple times before. I couldn't. I'm sorry.
No apology necessary. What's going on? What you want to talk about?
Right. There's a broad spectrum at childhood. I guess.
What was that? I didn't catch that. Can you give me that again? I'm sorry.
Oh, I said childhood.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me okay?
I got you now, yeah. Sorry about that.
I guess the main reason I'm reaching out is I just want to know if anyone else out there has ever experienced what I did while growing up. It's, as far as I know, it's so rare there's not even a psychological term for children raised the way I was. Okay. And I just want to, like, get my story out there, see if anyone else who has been through this can feel that they're not alone, or I don't know, it helps to know you're not alone.
So what was it?
To put things bluntly, I was raised by a Army Special Operations member who had been through many, many tours, and the way he raised me was not militaristic. It was not even raising. I was trained starting at the age of 8 with weapons training, moving on to hand-to-hand combat at 12, moving on to marksmanship and other forms of combat defense, things they teach special operations members like Krav Maga, the literal art of killing people with your bare hands. I was not raised like a child. I was raised to be. Initially, my dad wanted me to join the army like he did, but then he changed his mind, but he kept with the training. And it was all the way down to such a severe militaristic special ops training that at one point I was brainwashed enough to actually agree to anti-interrogation training, which is literally being tortured so that you have experience in it to learn what it is like to be that way and not give up what you need to hold in. It's, as far as I've been able to learn, someone who trained another person like that is called a handler. I have never found what a handlee is as a child. And what I'm trying to say is I just feel like I'm alone. I've never met anyone who's been through intense military training for 10 years before they ever even turned 18.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, I've learned to live with it. I'm in my mid-20s now. I've been out of that house for a long time. It screwed me up so bad, though. There were points in my life where someone couldn't touch me on the shoulder without being forced into a joint lock. And I had no control over those reactions.
Right.
Sometimes I wake up at night seeing strobe lights and feeling like I'm about to be put back in the basement for anti-interrogation training. And it's just, you know, if anyone's out there that's ever been through this, I just want them to know, like, they're not alone. It's difficult.
So would you say, is this more of a... Sorry, go ahead.
No, you. It sounded like something important was coming.
Oh, no, not important. Well, I'm just trying to figure out if this is like what would be helpful here. Is you just want to get that off your chest? It sounds like maybe this is kind of a confession or like a vent, or are you looking for similar experiences? Chat, if any of you have similar experiences, please contribute here for the caller. I certainly don't. I cannot relate with that. I can only imagine. It makes me, I would only be able to imagine that you might have some kind of PTSD from that. Have you been tested for PTSD? I mean, you mentioned you're waking up at night, seeing strobe lights. I mean, it also sounds like, I mean, that strobe light thing, waking to strobe lights thing also sounds like maybe, I'm not sure if you're familiar with exploding head syndrome, that you could be going through some kind of version of that, which can be a response to PTSD. Are you familiar? Have you looked into any of this stuff? I know I'm throwing a lot at you. I'm just trying to understand.
Yes, I've been in mental health care since I was about 16 years old, when my school kind of forced me into it because I severely injured another student in a fight. And when they recommended I get some serious help, my dad, in order to maintain a cover of looking like a normal parent, got me on meds and into mental health treatment, which I have continued to this day. And I do have PTSD. I have been tested. I have PTSD. I have been tested for antisocial personality disorder. I have that as well.
Wow.
And it's it's just like I continue my mental health treatment and I slowly get better. And recently in my life, I have hurt a person that I loved extremely because what I call the switch, which is like a light switch in my head that flips. I suddenly feel nothing. I have no care. I am fully reactionary. And I know it was a toxic relationship now, looking back on it, because, I mean, she threw a plate at my head, but what I did in response was in no way okay. It was full reactionary mode, and I wound up choking her unconscious. And I have lost relationships. I have lost many people in my life due to the fact that I am just not okay. After being raised for 10 years on what would almost definitely be considered solid abuse and in some extreme manners. I know I'm not okay. And I guess you could consider it as one of your questions, a vent, a story tell, if you will, a way to express to others that if anyone, because I know you're quite popular, and if anyone out there has ever been through this, I just want anyone who may be watching to know you are not alone. And again, I don't even know if anyone who is watching has ever even been through this. I can't read the comments right now because I'm watching YouTube on my phone.
That's probably, I actually encourage callers to not get absorbed into the chat during the call so we can have a good organic conversation. But the chat is there for you as a resource after the stream anytime. That's where we leave the chats in for the callers, so it will be there for you. I will highlight something from the chat. John Corin from the chat says to you, I was raised by someone who was militaristic and abusive. It wasn't the same situation at all, but I can relate to PTSD and being robbed of childhood. And that's the biggest thing I'm hearing from you here. This is me talking now to you. That's the biggest thing I hear from you is like, you didn't get your childhood. You know, like your dad straight up robbed you of your childhood. And I'm really sorry to hear you're wrestling with the PTSD. That is so unfair and tragic to hear about. Like, you know, I'm glad to hear that you've had some counseling. Do you feel like that helps? Is that helping you?
It is. For a long while, counseling wasn't helping. I was not receptive of it at all. I had a firm belief that I would be forever fucked. And I mean, now I'm a little bit older. I'm in my mid-20s, and I've come to the conclusion that the only way I'm ever going to get better is maintaining a therapeutic relationship with counselors and medication and things like that. I've come to the point now where, like I mentioned earlier, there was a time in my life where if someone grabbed me by the shoulder in a semi-aggressive manner, they wound up nearly getting their wrists broken. And now I'm at the point where complete strangers can grab me by the arm, and even if it's startling, I don't react in a violent manner off the bat. Only if things progress from there, then of course I do react based off how I was trained, but most of the time that's almost completely uneventful now.
Right. How old are you now? Did you say you're in your 20s, or am I making that up?
Mid-20s, yes. I'm 26 in a month.
You know, you are, this is a really unique experience you're under. You know, let's think about some of the positives here. I mean, this is heavy stuff that you were raised in, but let's think about some of the positives. Some of the positives are you will never be physically taken advantage of after that kind of upbringing because you were raised to defend yourself. It sounds like you're very good at defending yourself. It sounds like your challenge is learning to identify when and how is appropriate, and that might take some time after that kind of an upbringing. Like none of us here are professionals. Like I'm glad that you have a therapist. I'm really happy that you're calling in and sharing this. We have this place so that people like you can call in and be honest and completely honest, and not be afraid of like a shrink sending you to a hospital because you said the wrong thing. So this place, you're using this place in the right way, and I'm really glad you've called in. Of course, I'm just kind of calling out that like you're in a very specific situation that a lot of us here may not be able to fully understand, but we're happy to listen. We're happy to, provide some ideas in the chat for you here, and I'm, kind of spitballing with you here on the phone. But it sounds like you have made some progress. It sounds like the therapy has been helpful, and that you've been able to, as you mentioned, like if a stranger comes up to you on the street and touches you or grabs your arm, you're able to kind of think about it. Is that right? Like you're able to kind of reason with yourself and negotiate with yourself before just like decking someone out?
Pretty much, yes. That's a good way to put it. I mean, in certain situations in my life, it has been 100% necessary to do that. I was homeless for quite a while of my life after I got out of my dad's house. And during that time, I had been assaulted 3 times with lethal weapons. And simply due to hand-to-hand combat training and how to fight off multiple attackers and disarm weapons, I have literally saved my own life in each one of those situations. I was half lucky I went through that, half kind of not so lucky.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, what would make this a helpful call? Did you just want to vent, or would something in particular be helpful? How can we make this a good call?
I guess I mainly just wanted to vent and then say one thing, which is anyone out there who may be listening, if you have been through this, I deeply regret that your childhood or even adulthood, if this is what you went through as an adult, has been wrecked or destroyed, and we're not alone. I just want people to know, like, this kind of stuff does happen. People with these kinds of issues do exist, and I'm sure everyone here knows PTSD exists, but if anyone out there has had their childhood stolen the same way as me, you're not alone. Don't feel alone, because that's the one thing that's hurt me most of my life is feeling alone. I've never met someone that has been through this.
That's beautiful. I'm glad you can have that kind of perspective on what you've gone through. That's really awesome to hear, that you've got that perspective, that you've gone through this really horrific, hard to relate with experience, and now you're in a place where you want others to know that they're not alone. I think that's beautiful, and that's a large reason why we do this. Thank you for calling in and sharing. The Discord may be helpful for you if you're still processing this stuff. I'm not sure. Are you in our Discord server?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, please keep us posted there. I think that it would be. I'm personally curious how the progress goes for you, and of course, like, feel free to call back anytime in the future here. And don't think it's one and done. You can call back anytime.
Thank you. It was nice talking with you.
Nice talking with you too, and keep up the therapy. I'm really happy to hear the progress in therapy. I think that's awesome. In fact, let's give you a round of applause for that. You're coming out of something really serious, and the therapy has helped you, and I can hear that in your voice. So that's why I'm applauding you. Congrats for the progress you've made after coming out of a really crazy experience, and keep up the great work.
Thank you. It's really nice to hear.
Take care of yourself. Call back anytime. Good night. Hey, chat. Let's we're not going to ban anyone here for talking about encouraging people to pray or that they need to find a specific religion. But I will ask that we not get nasty towards each other, please. This is a place where we value free speech. We value, and this is not a place to get ideological or argumentative. We're all here together. We're in a boat here together. So let's keep focus on the callers. People are going to contribute all kinds of things in the chat that we might not personally agree with, and that's okay. Dare I say, beautiful. So let's just embrace it and just let people say what they're going to say. At the same time, I encourage all of you to, I beg all of you to please keep on topic and make sure that if you're submitting something, it really is coming from a place of interest in the caller and care for the caller. And yeah, that's my piece. Taking the next caller. Hi, thanks for calling. Hello?
Hello.
Hi, thanks
Hi.
for calling.
I'm
What do you
sorry.
want to talk about?
I have a borderline personality disorder. I have a long-standing partner of about
Can you come again?
8 or
I'm
9
sorry.
years.
Which disorder are you struggling
Yeah,
with?
I'm sorry. Are you still on? I'm here.
I'm still here. Yeah, yeah.
Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Give me 1 second. So I have borderline personality disorder, and
Okay.
I have a partner of about 8 years that I feel like I constantly just hurt because of my mental health.
In what ways do you feel you hurt your partner?
Having BPDs, it's hard, and it's hard to explain to someone that you can't always pull yourself out of an episode, and I feel like I hurt him with my just those episodes, I guess.
So that doesn't sound like are you physically hurting your partner, would you say, or is it?
No,
So
more like emotionally, maybe you just breaking down his spirit almost. You know, he does try really hard, and I know that he tries, but I feel guilty in the fact that it almost never seems like it's enough. There's still things I wish he would do and say that would really help me, but it's not really fair to force somebody to say and do the right thing all the time. To give an example, because part of the reason why I was calling is because we just had a really, really bad weekend together, where we just, even when we were resolving fights, we would resolve and get into another fight and resolve that one and get into another one, and he basically shut down, and I was really hurt, and I didn't do the right things either, and I carry a lot of guilt and shame because I wish I could be better. And I've been in therapy for 10 years, and I've done tremendous work with a lot of my BPD things. It's just I feel like none of that comes to light, and I don't use that when it's us, when it's me and him.
Right. Well, there's a beauty in what you're sharing and the way you're sharing it. I hope you can realize that. You know, I've known a lot of people with borderline myself. I've been very close with a lot of people who've suffered from borderline personality disorder, and not very many of them are able to say the words you just said here in front of all of us, and we've got to acknowledge that, because that's amazing. I mean, we all have things we struggle with. Everyone has regrets. I have regrets. Everyone in the chat here has regrets and things. We all have things we wish we could do better. Um, you know, and you know, it's that self-awareness that is so important. And you seem to have a lot of it, which is, again, it seems very, I would say, very rare for people that struggle with borderline. Mariah Burnell from the chat says to you, I can understand you, caller. My mom has BPD, and I think it's very, very brave of you to admit the role you take in the relationship. I think that is very brave. I think it's more than brave. I think it's admirable and amazing. It's absolutely amazing that you're able to say these things. And I'm really also happy to hear that you're in therapy for this, because a lot of people with BPD don't go get therapy. And I think it's amazing. I can hear the therapy talking when you share about your experience. And so I'm trying to encourage you that, of course, I don't know you, but knowing the people I've known who've suffered from borderline, I can tell you've made progress, because you sound nothing like most of the people I know who have borderline. And I think that's really good. So I'm starting with some positive things there to encourage you. And I'm wondering, like, what was your childhood like? What do you think that contributed to the way your brain developed? Where do you think the tendencies you have come from, if you had to say?
I had a weird childhood. I would say that a lot of it, there was really good moments. I had a very difficult relationship with my mom. And a very wonderful relationship with my dad. And really, I think the point where my childhood kind of went wrong is, and just trigger warning for anybody if I'm going to talk about sexual violence and assault. I was molested by my uncle when I was 8, and it's hard to say, but he made me feel special, wanted, noticed. And at a certain age, around, it was either 10 to 11, and my uncle, by the way, he wasn't much older than me. I'm 25, I believe he's like 20 or 29. So it wasn't like the older, creepy uncle touching you. It was like somebody close to my age, somebody who I admired a lot. And I think he got to an age when he realized what he was doing was wrong, and he stopped. And I feel like I kept searching for that attention in people. And my first boyfriend sexually assaulted me. The boys in my neighborhood knew that I was very hypersexual and wanted that attention, and gave it, and used dating me or being a friend to me to get to it. Very manipulative. I self-harmed. I mean, I went through a lot of hard things, but it doesn't seem hard looking back at it, if that sounds strange to say. My parents, as soon as they kind of found out that stuff was happening, though, is when they got me into therapy. And my first therapist, I manipulated and snowballed, and they realized that. And my second therapist, a very wonderful person, actually is really the person I owe my life to. and my career too, because I'm in school to be a therapist myself, which I'm
Good for you.
scared of failing, with having BPD. Sometimes I'm afraid I don't have the boundaries and the abilities to be a therapist, but I really hope I do get there. But I think those tendencies came from basically that desire to be wanted,
I think
along with the trauma.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, of course, we're psychologists are still learning where things like BPD come from. We know that your environment as a kid can have a major impact on that, but we don't know the full extent of it. And you're certainly not alone. Rebecca Burlew from the chat says to you, "I was groomed and was made to feel special because of it. I have had the same struggle of needing that attention my whole life, and that's so incredibly hard. My heart goes out to you." So yeah, you're certainly not alone here in the chat. I hope that makes you feel a little more understood and normal. You're talking to a lot of people here who grew up in some form of abuse, and I would say in your case, you grew up in a very thick kind of abuse, and I'm really sorry to hear that. I wonder how therapy has helped you in understanding the impact of all that on your awareness today and your personality today.
Yeah, I mean, therapy has really made me able to use the benefits, honestly, of having borderline, the ability to empathize, and through therapy, being able to look past myself, it's made it a lot easier to see how other people come to their conclusions with their own issues. You said you were so sorry to hear that, and I used to be like, oh, thank you, but now I think it's almost like I have like a weird acceptance with my trauma, in the sense that I was lucky enough to be resilient enough to be here, and I should use that gift to help other people who might not be as resilient or find their resiliency.
That's a beautiful way to look at it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And
of course, sorry, for me to say I'm sorry is a poor choice of words, because I didn't do those things to you, but I am sorry to hear it. I hate to hear it might be a better choice of words, but I try not to say hate. I don't like the word hate. I don't
like the word hate either.
Yeah.
It's a strong word.
But I am sorry to hear those things. Of course, I can't take that away from you. I can't own those things that were done to you, but I hear what you're saying. Mariah Burnell again says to you, "I admire you, caller, for opening up about these things. I feel so much empathy for you. Your story is very similar to my mother's, and I hear the pain in your voice. Please know you are loved." So you're getting a lot of support and love in the chat. And
I appreciate it.
I sense that that you appreciate that stuff, and I believe you when you say you appreciate it. I also sense that you've made so much progress in therapy that it sounds like I'm talking to someone who has really compartmentalized what happened to them and has been able to put it in a box. And the more we've talked about your past, the less emotional you've been. I mean, you called in on the verge of, you were crying when you called in, opening up about your present situation. And I hope I didn't get us off on a bad tangent trying to understand your story.
No.
But it sounds like from what I'm hearing, it sounds like what's really on your mind is your relationship right now, your current relationship. And I'm wondering what would make this a good call for you.
I think I would like to just vent and talk about some of our struggles, and I would love some advice from people in the chat who seem to relate to either living with someone, loving someone with borderline, or just having it themselves. Because, like I said, you're right that I have a lot of self-awareness, and I do compartmentalize a lot of my past. But at the moment, I feel like I've slipped into some sort of regression with my borderline symptoms, and I feel like it's really hurting my relationship, and I'm scared to lose that person. Quite frankly, I don't think I will, logically, but emotionally, I feel like I've just pushed them to the edge too many times. Currently.
While we're waiting for the chat to chime in on that, were you abandoned as a child? That's a question coming to my mind.
Not really. I mean, my parents, they got me into therapy. They did the right things. I mean, I feel abandoned by that uncle who abused me, but I've sort of accepted that. Really, the only person in my life, family-wise, that I feel abandoned by is, I guess, my mom. I just don't feel like she understands me. I don't feel like she wants to understand me, and I feel like she is honestly clueless to who I am, which is hard. And it's another added layer of stress in my life is seeing my parents' relationship fall apart right now in front of me, and maybe that's why I'm so terrified of losing my own partner, because they don't have borderline and they're falling apart.
Right. So, am I understanding that your mom emotionally, there was some sense of emotional abandonment? Is that what you were getting at?
Yeah, some emotional abandonment. I could give a good example of a recent time with my mom. I had a very bad day, and I did all my DBT skills, and I have a medical cannabis card for my PTSD, and it was getting to be 8 o'clock, and I still was wound up, so I decided to use some of my medicine. And when my mom came home, she asked me, what was wrong? And I said, Mom, I just had a bad day. And she's like, well, I just wanted to ask a question, whatever. And so I said, okay, go ahead, ask your question. And the first thing she said to me was, what are you going to do when you have a job? Like, I haven't had jobs with having borderline. Like, I don't know how to handle life. No care about me, just if I could succeed or not.
Right. So it makes me wonder if this fear that your partner will abandon you could have some root in the way you feel about your mom.
Definitely. I would say that there is some overlap between the two. And my biggest issue, I guess you could say, when it comes to my partner is that I just don't know when to stop and when to give him space because of that abandonment trigger. I'll text him and I'll call him and I'll push and I'll push. And I would say this past weekend I went to an extreme of that, where we had been fighting, and there's a bunch of miscommunication, and we weren't getting to a resolved part of it. And when he went up to his room and shut the door and locked it and said that he was just going to lay down, and I cried and begged for him to not do that, and would knock on the door, would cry, would yell out for almost an hour, maybe 30 to 45 minutes. It was embarrassing, and I'm shameful and I'm guilty, and I knew that that was just causing him pain and turmoil. And he probably felt trapped.
What does it feel like when you're pushing your partner's buttons? What does it feel like for you? What is that experience like for you? Can you describe that sensation to us?
It's like I know that I'm pushing him, and a part of me is screaming to just stop, leave him alone. But a bigger part of me is like, but maybe this time he'll answer. Maybe this time he'll open the door. It's like almost like an obsession. It's my partner is unfortunately, if you know the borderline term of a favorite person, he's my favorite person. So when I feel abandoned by him, when there's that trigger and when I push, I literally feel like my world is disintegrating around me. And it's like I said, it's just like, this time it will work. This time he'll answer me, and we'll talk things out, and he'll get why I did that, and we'll be able to move on. We'll be okay.
Have you tried any form of guided meditation? Makes me wonder if when you feel those things coming on, those feelings coming on, if popping in some headphones and listening to some soothing guided meditation for 20 minutes, whenever you get that urge, nip it in the bud and just listen to something soothing that can calm you down for 20 minutes and give you a reset. Have you tried something like guided meditation in those moments, and do you think that would help?
I haven't, and it quite possibly could. I think the hard part of that is the motivation and the ability to pull yourself out of that headspace in that moment to do that. I mean, it's like I don't even recognize who I am during those times, because it's like the real me is locked inside yelling at me to stop.
So it just comes on suddenly? Is that how it feels? Like it's just you're feeling fine, everything's great, and then all of a sudden, like bam, you're in this heightened state, or there's no come on, there's no ease into it.
There is. There's not like, it's not like I ease into it, I guess, but there is, like, I know when it's getting triggered.
Okay.
But it's like,
well, you sound like a really self-aware, disciplined person. I mean, of course, like you're being honest with a lot of stuff you're struggling with, and that's admirable. And I'm happy we're all learning from what this experience feels like. There's some people in the chat who I know there's people in the chat who've opened up in the past about having BPD. So I imagine there's people in the chat with BPD right now listening. And those of us who don't have BPD, a lot of us are here in these streams because we know people going through things like BPD. So you're in good company. And we're all just happy to listen. And I hope anything we say is helpful or encouraging and constructive. But, there's this, I bring up the guided meditation because it's something that's really helped me. Again, I'm not borderline. And so I don't know what that's like. That's why I'm asking those questions about what does it feel like when it's coming onto you, when you're feeling like you're losing that control. And, I heard a little bit of self-doubt in that answer you gave. It sounded like you were suggesting you might not be able to, sorry, I've got notifications going off, guys. Turn those off. Sounds like you might not be able to have the wherewithal to control that or to put headphones in. But, I would, I want to very gently, softly challenge you only because, and again, I don't have borderline, so I could be flat out wrong. But because you sound like you've done a lot of work, and you're here being very honest and candid with us about what this feels like for you. I mean, that's not something a lot of people with BPD can do. And I'm wondering if I make a suggestion on a resource that I love for guided meditation, if you would try it.
Yeah, I'm very willing to try just about anything. I think that's why I can be as candid and as honest as I am, because, you know, being in therapy for so long, I realized that, you know, there's no benefit to hiding anything. If
Right.
you're your most authentic self, that's where you get the most help. That's where you get the most benefit, the most anything from life.
That's right. I believe that. Well, this woman I love, her name is I don't know her personally, but I love her work. Her name is Bella Ruth Naperstek. Uh, it's Bella Ruth is one name. I'm gonna put this her website in the chat for you. Her website is healthjourneys.com. I'm gonna put this link in the chat to you. I'm gonna link a specific one that I think might be good from what I'm hearing, and then I'm gonna put just the general website, which has like all kinds of guided meditations. So this one I'm putting in first is a guided meditation for anxiety and panic. And then she's got like probably, I think she has like 100 different, maybe more. I honestly don't know how many she has. She's got guided meditations for uh, let's see what's in here: caregiver stress, chemotherapy, depression. They're like alcohol and drugs.
Right.
You know, like all it's like just incredible. Like all of the work she's done, they're all very specific. So this second link going in is just the general page where um, uh, all of her work is. And these are not free. You should know these are like $10 to $12 each. Oh no, some of them are on like seven. Some of them look like they're around $7. So I think it depends on the length, because some of these are like 20 minutes and some of them are like an hour. So I think she charges by the length of them. But these I have personally used these for. She has a really good one on forgiveness. That one was amazing for me years ago when I was working through some forgiveness stuff. Yeah, and I was just blown away by like a guided, like that was my first experience with Bella Ruth Naperstek, was her forgiveness. I think it's called Anger and Forgiveness, and it just like it really expedited a lot of healing on my part and helped me get through a really rough time. And so I just love her, and I've bought a few of her guided meditations over the years, and they're great. They're just little MP3s, and you can put them on your phone or keep them on your laptop, or and just take. And you never know when you might need it. But I absolutely love her work, and I'd be really curious to hear how that works for you with your BPD and whether or not it's helpful. If you find good experience with that, would you please update us in the Discord so that we know? Because I know that other people who are going through BPD might find that valuable to know.
Yeah, no, I will definitely let you know. The part that interests me is about the panic, because that's part of the trigger, and the need for the push is panic, because you feel like you need to do something, and if you don't do something, then the door that he shut in front of me, that's going to be there forever. A lot of things with having borderline is sorry to just keep going on about it, but like I say very often, logically I know, because when I'm at my baseline, at my center, when I'm mindful, logically I know things. But when you have BPD, and as people would know, your emotional side is just so not logical that even in that moment when it's not, it's like you can't stop it.
Right.
It's very hard to come out of a spiral, and that's what I call it. I call it spiraling. I don't know if that's a term used with borderline or not, but it's because it kind of feels like my whole world just sort of, like I said, it like disintegrates. It's panic. It's a spiral into these very intense emotions that are really hard to express correctly to people and to understand even.
Right.
So I feel like it could be helpful in those moments to kind of, recenter yourself, get back to that baseline.
I hope so. I mean, I wouldn't suggest it if I'm very careful when I make suggestions, especially if they cost money. Of course, I'm not always going to make perfect suggestions. I don't think anybody will, even a psychologist won't, because these things are still mysteries. Even psychologists argue about treating BPD and what's helpful and what's not. So we're all shooting in the dark a little bit, but these are things that have helped me. And again, I've known a lot of people with BPD, but I'm not BPD, so I honestly don't know if it will be helpful. But I love her work, and I would personally love to know if it helped you. You can let us know that in the Discord or call back here anytime. I hope you give us an update of some kind as you continue forward. Yeah. And I want to wind down on a positive, encouraging note from the chat. This comes from Unter Gang Girl. Hunter Gang Girl says to you something really beautiful. They say, healing is not linear. Progress is not linear. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Don't lose hope, caller. You can do this. You are on the right path forward. And I think that's totally right. I don't think that's off base at all to suggest you're on the right path forward. Again, you've been in a lot of therapy and you've made a lot of progress. I can hear it in your voice, and you're very self-aware. And I think this is all beautiful. So I'm wishing you the best. And again, please feel free to call back anytime.
Yeah, and just a closing thought, since you said that this seems to bring borderlines here, and people who know borderlines are here. I just wanted to say that, it is hard to go to therapy. It is so hard to get to this point. I mean, I have to every second basically make sure I'm using my DBT skills. And I want people to know that it's not curable, it's not fixable. It's something that you can live with and live happily with. And you're going to have bad days and you're going to have worse days, but you're also going to have really amazing days.
That's right.
And I just don't want anybody here who has borderline to give up on themselves, because, as much as I tried to give up on myself, I also didn't. And this is where I am now. And I just want other people to be able to get here too.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. It was awesome speaking with you. I really did enjoy the conversation. I appreciated the conversation a lot. So thanks for sharing, and I'm hoping for a positive update from you. Please call again anytime, and take care of yourself. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. You as well.
Good night. Wow, I'm always amazed how quickly these streams fly by. These are the highlight of my week, doing these anonymous live streams. I enjoy the prank calls too, admittedly. It's a different kind of enjoyment, obviously. But we do these 3 times a week for a reason. And I'm just amazed. There's never a shortage of callers. There's always people calling, sharing about amazing stories. And I just always look forward to these. Thank you guys so much for rolling with the punches tonight on my little mobile setup here. Again, I'm here in my friend's house in LA this week, tucked away in the back corner of the house so as not to disturb anyone that may be here. In fact, I don't even know if anyone's here yet, but my friend was supposed to come back in the middle of the stream. So I'm tucked in the back room of this house in a little corner where where we can do this and not disrupt anything. And this was I want to say this was a beautiful way to spend the sunset tonight. This is the first time I've done this, started at broad daylight, because I'm usually, we do these at 9 p.m. my time, usually after the sun's down. So it was the first time doing it. Literally, we started at sunset, and it's now dark outside. This was an awesome way to let the night come in. So thanks again to everyone for sharing your thoughts in the chat, for being here for these callers. We do these 3 times a week on Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. We should still be on track for this Tuesday's stream. I'm doing everything I can to not miss it, but I am traveling and there's a lot going on So stay tuned on my community page on YouTube for an update on what to expect on Tuesday. Likely I will be here in this same room or maybe a different room at a different friend's house. But I'm trying my best to make it on Tuesday. And then we will be doing hopefully a prank stream on Wednesday as well. So a lot of disclaimers there. Huge shout out to our mods. You guys are awesome. We had a bunch of mods tonight. You guys are baller. Tonight we had Easy Cheesy, Mr. Game & Watch, Deanna Krebs, Jake Cooper, Offcore. I think that's it. Did I say Jake Cooper? I think I always say Jake Cooper twice for some reason. Maybe it's because he's the last one to post, and so I say his name first. I try to get everybody. Mods, you're awesome. Thanks so much for the keeping the chat clean. There was a lot of turmoil tonight in the chat, but I'm glad that we got everybody back on the same page. You guys are awesome. I thoroughly love these every time we do them, and have a great beginning of your week. I'll see you hopefully on Tuesday. Take care.